Hello everyone, and a cyclical welcome to Eschenko's list of top 5 roguelite indie games that are worth a closer look. The roguelite genre is an interesting subject to look into, as for its sheer amount of variety. As today's list will show, these games can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. We kick things off with a title that brings together two gameplay elements to combine them into a single memorable experience in Moonlighter. What I love about the indie genre is how developers can take different aspects from all sorts of genres and piece them together into a full game that goes all out to deliver something fun and addictive that is sure to stick in your mind and makes you excited to come back for more and see what's next. What makes Moonlighter stand out are the two elements at the core of the gameplay loop. You play as Will, born into a family of merchants, and Will aspires to be more than just that. He also dreams of becoming a hero. The merchant part of Will's lineage is an important one though, as that forms one half of the game while the hero part forms the other. So, starting himself as a bit of an adventurer, you'll find 4 dungeons to plunge into as Will seeks to uncover the mysteries of the unknown 5th dungeon. During these randomized dungeon runs, you'll find components and items, which you'll then take back to the village of Ratropolis, where the second half of the game kicks in. These materials you'd find in your dungeon runs can then be crafted into weapons or potions or even upgrades at the townsfolk, or it can be sold directly to the townsfolk at your shop. This is quite an interesting balance you'll need to manage, as you find the right prices for the materials that makes you a boatload of cash, which in turn you'll use to upgrade your shop or even unlock vendors in the village. You can also use these materials to forge items for you to use in the dungeons to make yourself stronger in order to progress further, or they can be sold in your shop to make even more cash. There's a bit of decision making there, as you'll need to decide the best way to implement the many materials that you encounter. The loop of nightly dungeon crawling and running a shop during the day to sell your dungeon haul is surprisingly fun and rewarding. You keep on pushing yourself to go further and further each night, trying to see how far you can get, but doing so without overextending yourself of course. Get knocked out in the dungeons and you lose all the goods you picked up on that specific dungeon run. There's not a whole lot of story here, or any sort of depth to the narrative that'll hook and pull you through, but there is a quirky cast of characters to meet in town though, which adds to the charm of Ratropolis. On top of that, the clean pixelated graphics also stand out as a high point, and it's sure to please retro gaming fans such as myself. What will truly grab and hook you in Moonlighter is the inherent fun factor supplied by the game's core mechanics. The ongoing loop between town and dungeon stays exciting and engaging enough, as each new challenge awaiting in the dungeons makes for a thrilling ride whenever you jump into the game. If you're into dungeon crawling or enjoy a game with some interesting elements put together in a way to spice things up, you'll find there's a lot of love that went into Moonlighter, and it's a title sure to keep you playing and coming back for more. As an avid fan of the 4X titles brought to us by Amplitude Studios, the foray into the roguelite dungeon crawling genre came a bit out of left field for me. I followed the Endless games ever since I got my first taste of Endless Space way back in 2014, and I was immediately an Amplitude fan for life. For this reason I stepped into Dungeon of the Endless with a sense of eager curiosity, and I can say it didn't disappoint. A notable aspect of the many Amplitude games is the decent amount of world building that's sown throughout the 4X games, which has effectively seeped into this title. Races and characters from the Endless universe show up, while even the resources featured in the 4X games have been implemented here in a very effective way. The game kicks off with a prisoner ship under attack from an unknown source. An escape pod launches to send a few survivors to safety. Here you can then choose 2 characters to start off with, while a whole cast of new unlockable characters awaits you further on into the game. The pod then crashes into a dangerous facility filled with all manner of creatures hell-bent on ripping your survivors to pieces. The idea is simple: keep your crew alive while protecting the crystal that acts as your power source. Each time you open a new door, there's a chance enemies will spawn in unpowered rooms. For this very reason, you'll need to accumulate dust to keep yourself safe and your economy flowing. In some rooms you'll find nodes where you can build modules with which you'll be able to run your operation. Modules can provide you with 1 or 3 resources: food, which is used to heal or level your characters, industry to build modules and defenses, science to upgrade, while dust is the resource that you can't really control. This you'll have to find as you enter rooms or while killing enemies, or from character bonuses or items, and you'll need every little bit that you can find. These resources lie at the core of the game, as you're going to be juggling what to build where, as it becomes an integral part of your strategy on your way to victory. Once you locate the exit room, the game takes on a whole new set of challenges. You can opt into opening more rooms, which would net you more resources and the chance to find merchants or unlock new characters. Otherwise you can try to end the level right there and then. This flips things into a mad dash as one of your fastest characters need to grab the power crystal and make a break for the exit. The moment you take the crystal though, all hell breaks loose as all the unpowered rooms start spawning endless waves of monsters. There are two ways to lose a run, if your entire crew dies or if your power crystal gets destroyed. So every decision and every second counts, as bad choices or sometimes just extremely bad luck can mean the end of a run. Taking everything that you've learned or using a new character that you've unlocked, you'll be eager to try again. The game does not take it easy on you though. I haven't played it in years, only recently I jumped back in, and it hit me like a ton of bricks just how unforgiving it can be. Interestingly enough, I went to some forums to get a refresher on some strategies, and it amazed me how many different opinions there were. A great part of Dungeon of the Endless is just how open to strategizing it actually is. Players can find their own way, and that is a facet of the game that I applaud. See what works for you, then adapt and learn as you play. As far as roguelite elements go, the game loop will easily swallow you right in. From the resources you'll manage, to the varied skills and playstyles the multitude of characters have on offer, there is a thoroughly enjoyable and deeply tactical game here that won't disappoint you. I honestly didn't know what to expect from Tribes of Midgard. The great art style quickly grabbed me, but on my first playthrough with some friends, I had no idea what I was in for. It took me a game or two before it struck me just what a unique spin the developers had on the survival genre, and I was immediately sold. Right off the bat, you can feel the devs took some inspiration from styles such as Don't Starve right through to some ARPG elements in the combat and classes. This unique take on facets from different games that we have seen before, but the sum of its parts come together here in a very cohesive and satisfying way. You get thrust into the world of Midgard as a Viking warrior, where you'll find a small settlement awaiting with a seed from the world tree at its center. Your task with keeping it safe, and so you'll head out into the world to find resources that you'll use to upgrade your settlement. This ranges from upgrading merchants, reinforcing the walls, or building structures to help with your resource income. The merchants around the village are vital in supplying you with weapons, armors, and all sorts of tools to make your journey easier. This might sound easy enough, but this is a game where overconfidence can be your downfall. The world out there is a dangerous one, and protecting your base is a far greater challenge than you might think. While killing the enemies around the world is one thing, at night you'll find hordes of enemies beset your gates in an attempt to lay waste to your fledgling world tree. This part can get grueling fast, and especially in multiplayer games you'll have to delegate with your teammates in order to handle the attackers effectively. As if that's not enough, every few days you find a Jotun invading your world. These giants would slowly make their way towards your village, and you'll need to seek them out to engage them in a cool boss battle of sorts. This can get real hectic when playing in a group, as you'll need to start hunting these guys long before they get to your camp, or failure will come faster than you can imagine. These giants are certainly the standout point of Tribes of Midgard. They come in different elemental varieties, making for some strategy in how you battle each of them, and some challenging moments that become the highlight of an already good package. Another part I enjoyed was scouting for the different biomes in the randomly generated levels, as the terrain adds an extra layer of complexity. Not only are the enemies tougher here, but in the hot and cold regions you'll need to craft better gear to enter here or take elemental damage. But you'll have to enter these regions in order to get better resources to craft even better gear. Where the roguelite elements comes into play is when you end a run, you'll tally your XP, which can unlock cosmetic gear or new items that you can craft in the gaming world. Every new run feels unique, but also familiar as the world changes, but you'll take what you've learned previously and practice what you've learned to improve and get better as you play, which made for a lot of fun, especially while playing with a group of friends. The game as it stands is a little bit buggy though, which is a fact that's causing some negative reviews from players. I haven't found anything game breaking though, but it's worth noting that these still exist as of the release of this video. Tribes of Midgard presents a solid game experience with quite a few clever touches to spruce up some familiar formulas in a new way. If this sounds like a fun time to you, then it's a game I can highly recommend, especially if you want to play it with some friends. Deck building games have seen a wide surge in popularity as an ever-increasing wave of titles enter the market. Many of these play it safe and stick to the familiar structure as Slay the Spire has become the basis for. Even so, there are more than a few developers who've gone on to add their own spin on things, especially by combining deck building with other genres. A very successful combination comes by the way of adding RPG mechanics, and a title that accomplishes this excellently is Tainted Grail Conquest. Before getting into the title, I think it's best to take a step back as the build up to release is a bit of an interesting journey. Going over the development of how much Tainted Grail has evolved over the years is astounding to take in, and a testament to Awakened Realms' dedication to the title. From how basic the early battles were to how the overworld was viewed, through to the game's UI, so much has been changed and polished for the better. There was even a point where Tainted Grail broke off into two titles. the deck building Conquest, and the first person Fall of Avalon that is still in development as of 2022. Some hardcore board game fanatics might even be excited to learn about the intricate board game out there, which was launched through an incredibly successful Kickstarter campaign. The amount of world building and care the developers are pouring into the Tainted Grail franchise gets a lore junkie such as myself quite enthusiastic to see what they've got planned ahead. Speaking of the world, Tainted Grail reimagines the Arthurian legend in the grimmest, bleakest way possible. Arthur and Merlin made their way to Avalon to escape the Red Death. War ensued with the native fort dwellers, and after some back and forth spell slinging, things went awfully awry, plunging the island into a magical catastrophe. You start the game off in a village with a menhir at its center, which is all that stands between you and the weirdness, a mystical fog that mutates and corrupts those caught within it for too long. Every run will have you start off in your village from where you explore the world, running into monstrous mutations that you'll need to defeat. Additionally, you encounter a cast of characters truly insane and utterly entertaining. These can range from a florist who will use body parts as flower arrangements to a ghost who is relieved to have cast off his bothersome flesh. Each encounter is amazing and crazy in all of the grim hilarity that you can glean from them. It's in this where the story excellently frames the backdrop of the roguelite elements. You see, the magical crisis everyone finds itself in is how time got completely messed up. Past and future got pulled into the present. This allows you to play through the jittery time in loops. So every time you meet up with a character again, you'll pick up from the previous conversations, and this is how NPCs guide you through the quest or even come to join your village. As villagers, they become an integral part of your progression, letting you hand in resources you find during your travels that will help you grow stronger in the world. At the start of the game, you'll be allowed to choose one from the 9 possible classes. These are divided among the 3 factions. The factions share cards. For instance, the Children of Morrigan lean towards straightforward heavy damage and blocking, while the Moonring deal in minion summoning. The Watchers of Tuathan have some interesting archer mechanics that take some getting used to. While factions share their own ultimate power that you can unleash during battle for some game-changing effects, each class modifies this to give it their own unique spin. The classes actually differ greatly and changes how you approach your enemies, while building your deck will adapt depending on what passives you pick up and how you decide to build your character. There are even runes that you can equip to give an assortment of bonus effects and items that you can utilize to change the tide of battle. There are a lot of moving parts in Tainted Grail Conquest, enough to overwhelm anyone, but the game steadily introduces you to its variety of tools at a pace that will effectively teach you how to master all of them. As you unlock more classes and vendors with each run, you'll be eager to step back into the world to try them out. This is the hallmark of any great roguelite, that balance between failing, growing, and succeeding, the loop that gives you the feeling of always moving forward. Tainted Grail Conquest nails this down, and the addictive parts of the roguelite experience will keep you coming back for more. From the grim art style and story beats through to how effectively the game meshes its deck building and role playing mechanics, it's easy to see how big a win this game is for the genre. If you're not a big fan of the whole roguelite deck building scene, Tainted Grail Conquest might not convert you. However, if you are a fan, then this game would be a welcome addition to your library. I mentioned at the start of Tainted Grail that the deck building style of games have certainly enjoyed a creative surge, where various genres have gained card mechanics in order to spruce up gameplay. Now, going from Tainted Grail Conquest RPG leanings, we head on over to something quite different in the strategy side of things with Ratropolis. The idea of bringing card decks into a strategy setting might seem like an odd idea, but Ratropolis brings these together in an effective way. As the debut title from Castle Games, a studio consisting of South Korean gaming students, it's more than impressive the amount of polish and expertise that went into this title. The visuals are smooth with a cartoony style, and the amount of charm your rat army displays comes alive in the sounds and animation, and you'll simply feel terrible if your city gets invaded and destroyed. There's no real deep story driving the game though. Essentially, the Great Ratropolis fell due to some crazy experiments done by its scientists, and so many Ratizans fled to find new homes. You stand at the birth of one of these settlements, and your mission is simply to protect your rodent citizens from the many crazy menaces that'll beset your city in waves. These range from all sorts of zany creatures, from the mutated experimented rats to armed and armored lizards and weasels. All the critters they throw at you get really tough to hold back, especially in the later waves. To fight off these threats, you'll have to select from a variety of leaders. Each of them come with a passive and an active ability, which comes to define your whole play style for that run. For instance, the merchant grants a passive discount from the traders that'll periodically visit your city who'll sell some new cards, while the merchant's active ability will discard random cards in hand to provide a quick gold injection into your economy. There's a lot of strategy between the different leaders, and while the mechanics seem simple, as you play you'll notice synergies, and you'll come to recognize the mistakes you're making during your run, and from there improve as you play. you'll need to keep an eye on your artisans as they represent your population count, while keeping a steady stream of gold to manage your army. There's your usual strategy game mechanics at work here that functions perfectly with the flow of the gameplay. The game is played from a side-scroller view with your city in the middle and the enemies attacking from the left and the right, which is a bit reminiscent of titles we've seen before. The twist Ratropolis brings though is how you play your cards to construct buildings and to summon your minions. This allows for some strategizing in what's the best cards to play with your leader and what military units you should bring out. You'll be given a chance to redraw your hand, or you can do it early by just paying some gold. It gets a bit tricky, especially early on to complete a run to wave 30, but even in defeat you're never down. At the end of each map you'll gain XP to level your leaders, whereby you'll be able to unlock new cards. There are also different levels to choose from, each of them have their own monster varieties and extra special effects that will impact how you play that run. The game isn't insanely deep though, so you might not find something to grip you for hundreds of hours, but there still is a solid game here. What Ratropolis offers is a fun experience you can jump into for a quick run, or if you're a roguelite fanatic, you just might find yourself spending the entire night building and planning to get the perfect strategy down. And so we end off on 5 great roguelite titles that just might be worth a closer look, but these are just some of my picks. Are there any roguelite titles you wish more people were playing? Comment down below and maybe I'll give myself and others some new titles to check out. Like the video to give the channel a fist bump and subscribe for more top 5 videos, as well as classic and indie let's plays and indie first impression videos. Thank you for watching, keep the game loop strong, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.